I think we can slowly start, probably, huh? I guess. Okay, great. So, a warm welcome to all of you today at our second webinar of the Meet Your Future Tools to Navigate the Future of Youth Work webinar series. Many thanks for joining us today. It's really good to see you here. My name is Sonja Mitter. I coordinate the European Academy on Youth Work, and I do this from the National Agency for Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps in Ljubljana. As indicated in the registration form, maybe you do that right away. We will record this webinar. This was announced also beforehand. I hope it's okay for you. We will not record the breakout groups, of course, but the plenary sessions. So yeah, we go do this now.
We're on.
We're on.
Okay. Bluetooth pairing.
All right. Good.
Bluetooth connected.
So a few words of introduction and context to the webinar today. First of all, about the European Academy on Youth Work. If you're here for the first time, then maybe it's good to say that, so if you're joining the Academy for the first time, I mean, it's good to maybe to say that the Academy is a strategic partnership of national agencies for the European Solidarity Corps and Erasmus Plus in the youth field, which supports innovation and increasingly also future literacy in youth work. To do so, we're organizing events, residential events, larger ones, smaller ones, and also online meetings like this one. And we also do some research and create educational tools for use in youth work and potentially also other educational contexts. This is a rapid time of changes, right? I wake up in the morning and I wonder what the latest news might be again today, if the world is still the same today as it was yesterday. And in the Academy, we offer a space to reflect and to discuss how will or how might these changes and challenges that we're seeing, or that we might not even be seeing yet, but that are emerging, impact young people, and in particular, how might they impact youth work? What kinds of developments are we likely to see? What kinds of developments do we wish to see? And what role can we, as youth workers, as a youth field, take in shaping the future, individually and collectively? The tools that you have the chance to get to know and to taste a little bit in these webinars were developed based on the outcomes of a research project called Futures of Youth Work that the Academy undertook in 23-24. And this research looks at possible future scenarios of youth work and at actions that youth workers and youth work could take today to prepare, to get better prepared for the changes. And based on the outcomes of this research project, the Academy has developed a set of tools to facilitate conversations about the future. And these tools are collected in the so-called Futures Toolbox, or maybe Futures of Youth Work Toolbox, which you can also find online on the Academy website. And these webinars now, they should help to bring these tools a bit closer to you. In the first one, in December, we already looked at different types of futures and how they shape our thinking and our actions. And we looked also at the concept of future readiness. And this webinar should support us in broadening our focus and enhancing our ability to see the future from different perspectives. And again, we will be introducing two tools developed by our facilitators. And we have here with us Darko, Markovic, who will guide us through the three horizons. And we have Anita Silva with us. Hi, Anita. Yeah, you wave as well, maybe. And Anita will introduce and take us through Window to the Future, the game that will help us, or that helps, yeah, the people to play, to be a bit playful when talking about the future. And then we have two more team members with us, Sabrina Apitz, who's our digital facilitator, and Domagoj, our communication expert from the Academy, who will today also help us with documenting this webinar. With that, I wish you a good time. I hope you will enjoy. And I hand over to Darko.
To me, I think.
To Anita, right. Anita, go.
Very shortly. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's really nice to see familiar faces and new faces all the time. So I'll be presenting the second tool, but starting off, I just want to remind a technical point. Sabrina is our digital facilitator. So if you have any technical questions, you can send a message directly to her with the chat function. And today we're going to use other tools than Zoom. So just for you to get ready if you need to, you will get links when it's needed, but we will use Miro and a sandbox version of Padlet. So these are the two tools we're going to use combined with Zoom. To start off, I would like to leave a question and ask you to answer shortly on the chat. What is your first thought when you hear the word future? What's your first thought that comes to your mind? There's no right or wrong. Just put it down in the chat and let's see what words come up very shortly. Let's see. All right. I see already uncertain and scary. A flashlight. A little bit like traveling to the future, back to the future. Uncertainty, possibilities, victory, chance, potential. Opportunities. All right. Change. And challenges. And you can keep bringing those words. These tools that we're going to present today are actually, I just heard a beautiful sound. It came from the future, people. My colleagues were joking with me because it looks like I'm in an elevator, and it seems I am an elevator to the future. It's like a skyrocket. When we think about the future, we do, we have a lot of mixed feelings about it and a lot of ideas that come up, and that's why dialogues around the future are so important. And today the tools we are bringing are aiming for deepening that reflection and allowing for dialogue. So with no further ado, I will pass to Darko to explain more of what we're doing and give you kind of a context.
Hey, good morning from my side. Greetings from Belgrade. I have a couple of slides to introduce the webinar and what we will do after. Just a second, I guess you can see it. Yeah, coming back to the question of uncertainty, probably the change is the only certainty that we can say. So things will change and they are changing every day. Interesting thing about future is, like this quote is saying, when I pronounce the word future, the first syllable is already in the past. So somehow we are living the future every single moment, maybe just a few moments after, or maybe in the end of the webinar, we already be in the future somehow. This was a little introduction to the research Futures of Youth work that was done in the framework of the Academy. And for those who were not maybe in the Academy event before, it's a first future foresight research at the European level, looking at different societal trends and trends around that possibly might impact the evolution of youth work. And the research develops a number of scenarios in so-called different horizons that we explore today in the first tool. So in Horizon 1, Horizon 2, and Horizon 3. The purpose of this research is not really to be a fortune-telling tool and to predict exact future of youth work, since nobody knows that, and the first syllable is already in the past when we try to do that. So we feel there's some things already getting outdated so quickly. But nevertheless, we believe the research and its results and scenarios could be very useful to start what we call future-oriented conversations in the youth work field, in the youth organizations, youth work organizations, youth worker associations, amongst your teams. So the scenarios are confronting you with different possibilities, and probably there are much more and many more than that is in the research itself. So research is a catalyst for those future-oriented reflections, and we believe also for building future literacy. As one of the recommendations from the research itself was that actually the youth work field needs to work more on future literacy, and that's actually how we came to development of 6 tools. They're all on the Academy website. And in the first webinar, as Sonia mentioned, we explored 2 tools which are about future readiness, and that's the types of future and 4 quadrants of future readiness. Today, we are looking at 3 horizons and window to the future. And in the last webinar that is going to happen on the 12th of February, so mark the date in your calendars, we will present the last 2 tools from this box. And this is how do I relate to the future and the fields of change. So this is coming in February, but today we focus on the 3 horizons and the window to the future, with the idea actually to widen our thinking, to widen our horizons, our perspectives on how the future might look like, and also what are the ways that we can think of future. It's particularly related to the 3 horizons. So predicting from the future is not an easy task, especially if you look from the present reality, from the present knowledge and present awareness, also present obstacles and present limitations. So this is a famous photo that actually was showing how in 1954 people imagined personal computer in 2004. Later we discovered that it was not actually the real photo, it was a little bit made up. But in reality, this could have been actually almost like a real photo from 1954, and because more or less the personal computers looked, or kind of computers looked like that those days. So we are aware of these limitations, that actually our current way of thinking, current way of knowing, current way of doing things is somehow also shaping the way we think of future. And probably one of the things about future literacy is to become aware of these limitations and allow ourselves to go beyond. And this is what we're trying to do with these 2 tools today. So the very useful tool that is actually quite famous in the future foresight world and amongst the futurists, it's called 3 horizons. It looks like a graph with the 3 lines, or they look like this. So the first one is horizon 1, the red line that goes above and then kind of goes down. Second is this blue one that looks like a bell curve, and the horizon 3 is this green line that starts on the bottom and then it kind of grows. So the 3 horizons are the ways we can think of future of something important to us. It could be youth work, it could be certain practice, it could be the ways of doing things. And the horizon 1 represent, which is sometimes called the dominant way of doing things in the present. So this is the way we do things currently. So we currently do youth work still in a very analog way, maybe with a little bit of digital. But then the question is, how does this way respond maybe to generational changes, to the changing needs of young people, maybe societal changes. And probably we cannot continue doing the same thing forever. So dominant way of doing things, sometimes called business as usual, Horizon 1 is saying that actually after a while, maybe the current ways of doing things will become less relevant, less targeting the changes in reality, less responding to changes in reality. So eventually, the current ways of doing things might be declining. The Horizon 2 thinking is something about that happens already quite strongly in the present. So it can be even higher than it's representing in this graph on the vertical axis. So it's something that feels like this is a disruptive innovation, something that actually comes in the field, comes as a trend, as a new development, something that actually challenges the way we do things today significantly. And that, for example, in our case, is let's say development in the field of artificial intelligence, which at the moment are like also challenging a lot the way the youth work is done, the projects are written, the lots of uncertainties about the role. Are we going to be replaced by AI, etc., etc. So this is something that is currently loud. It will grow. It potentially can amplify the dominant way of doing things, but potentially can also join the third horizon. So this is this disruptive innovation that actually challenges the current way of doing things that will, in the midterm, probably somehow shape and change the current ways. And then we have the Horizon 3, which we can call also emerging future. This is something that in the present, and we call it pockets of the future in the present. Maybe it's not so loud at the moment, not so impactful at the moment like AI, but it might shape, it might grow, and in the long term, maybe actually create a dominant way of doing things. In the research, for example, we spoke a lot about trends in demography, and we're saying if you think about 2050, probably it will be much less young people than we have today in the world, unless something dramatic in demographic trend changes. If not, this means actually that in 2050 there will be much less young people, so probably youth worker would need to do something else or something different. And one of the potential emerging futures is that actually youth work in 2050 becomes much more intergenerational, for example. So not only focusing on young people, but maybe together with older generations. This could be just one of scenarios. It's not about predicting one single point, but one of the ways of doing things. So to say, the pockets of the future in the present could be those things that can actually emerge and actually impact the future in the longer term. So these are the three horizons. I hope I was clear in explaining. So one way also, so it's about broadening our thinking about futures. It's about also enhancing our sensitivity for these future signals or these pockets of the future that are not so loud like AI, but kind of they are there and kind of underneath, and they are growing. And awareness of the trends around that are impacting what we're doing. And ultimately, the three horizons are preparing you for change and also preparing for innovation, which can actually be part of the Horizon 2, or maybe transformation that can actually be part of the Horizon 3. So to go and practice that, in the picture you can see how we use the three horizons in one of the workshops, when we actually ask our participants to look at a lot of societal trends and see what of those trends are kind of impacting, let's say, the Horizon 1, which are impacting the necessity for innovation in Horizon 2, and what's emerging on the Horizon 3. So we would like to do something similar with you today to taste a little bit working with the three horizons. And we have selected a very familiar topic to all of us, which is called supporting youth participation. So the topic of the discussion, so this kind of future-oriented discussion in the breakout rooms, will be supporting youth participation. And we ask each of the groups to use the post-its in Miro board. Sabrina will tell you in a second how it looks like technically. To use color-coded Miro board, post-its in a Miro board, and just put your post-its, like in this picture, on the graph on the horizon. So when you think about supporting youth participation, what do you consider what are our dominant ways of doing this? You know it probably. You can just remind yourself. So what's the dominant ways of doing that at the moment? Second would be in the horizon two, what is disrupting our current ways and asks for innovation. So asks us to maybe shift our ways and change them a bit so they can can be adjusted to reality. And the third on the horizon three, third question is what's emerging? Maybe not so loud, not so strong, that can maybe radically change or radically transform our approaches to supporting youth participation in the long term. So this is the task. Sabrina, maybe you can show quickly the Miro and then we will split you into the breakout rooms.
Yes, thank you, Darko. I show you, it's quite similar to what you already have seen. So there's also the instructions again, and here we have the graph. And you just in your groups take the post-its according to the different colors of the horizon. We also wrote it down here in case for some who cannot identify the colors well, and write down exactly your thoughts. Darko, I have now around 5 people in the group. Is that okay?
Perfect. That's perfect. Maybe just last information before you to go to the groups. You have 20 minutes in your groups for these future-oriented discussions and just put your post-its on the graph. 20 minutes, see you back at roughly 11:15.
Perfect. I open the rooms.
Enjoy being in the future.
We're back.
Basically, you're back from the future to the present.
Yay.
Yes, exciting moment. Thanks a lot. We still maybe miss a few more people to arrive. Yeah, I think the two screens are filling in and even more. Yeah, welcome back. It was actually amazing to see the activity on the mirror board. Some things started to emerge and then they started to, it was like I don't know, like a huge wave of post-its coming in. So it's just to show you the picture in the end, if you don't see it. In the end, it looks like this. It was not ordered or edited, so it's just your rough picture. In the beginning, it was a lot of red post-its on the horizon one, slightly started to be a bit more on the horizon two, and then was very few in the beginning on the horizon three, but apparently that is already changing. Yeah, this was just for you to taste a bit how it is and how it feels to work with the three horizon, actually to imagine that actually there's no one horizon, but there are three, and three different ways of about thinking of possible futures and what's impacting the future changes. Maybe it brings back a little bit more sense of security, maybe not so much certainty, but let's see. I'm curious to hear from you, and maybe in the chat, I will ask you to share what was your main insight, maybe first on the content level. So what was your main insight from this 20 minutes exercise, and write in the chat what was the main thing when using the three horizons. Let me see what we get. So what was the main insight for you in this exercise? Yeah, as you can see, people writing different things. You can also like as you're already doing. If you think about Horizon 3, you have to do it with other people. Digital innovations of our world are the main factors of bringing uncertainty. Focus on what is not working will not work. Yeah, we know it takes more time, Marisha, for these things, of course. Overlaps between Horizon 2 and Horizon 3, disappearing of democracy, being aware of the potential trends that to become permanent, being prompted to think about the future is in itself positive. Present context plays a huge role. It was hard, but also useful and meaningful. Overcoming the present state of mind. We thought mainly about Horizon 3, and for me it was how young people may react or respond to current political direction. Okay, and see maybe what's emerging, what's new, who is learning from whom about youth participation in this particular moment. Maybe also one of the questions that might bring a little bit that giving young people an active role and more support of older people, then the experiences resonates across Europe, said. Was also hard not to think about Trump and Putin. Yeah. The Horizon 3 helped me analyze the current state, emerging challenges, but then how those challenges can be addressed and hopefully turned into promising future, etc., etc. Thanks a lot. It's actually was apparently quite meaningful, quite fruitful for a short amount of time that you had. This could be done indeed as a longer exercise, even in a full day session with a team or in the workshop context, but it would need a couple of hours. And also maybe it might also require some pre-workshop warm-up or research. So what we did in the workshop with the picture that I shared with you in the slide, we asked people that up front they think of those possible signals of the future, either on the Horizon 2 or on Horizon 3. So what's collapsing, what's emerging, what are the pockets of the future that they can sense already, and that these material actually we used in the workshop. So it requires some time to warm up your thinking, also maybe to get rid of the present perspectives and also widen your thinking. That actually we will also use a lot in the next tool that Anita will present. But in particularly in relation to the Horizon 3, what we find very important, and it was the backbone of the future foresight research that we did, is that this sensitivity about what we call the silent signals. So not only the strong disruptive things that are coming, like in technology, AI, let's say the whole crisis of democracy at the moment, but what's also these silent signals or some things that are just emerging, maybe on the outskirts, on a little bit on the margins of society, maybe even, that actually potentially will grow in the long-term run. And this requires a little bit more sensitivity and openness, and just sense together or make sense together what might come out of that if these things will grow, and how these trends can potentially transform what we are doing. So in that sense, the Horizon 2 is much louder, much stronger. It's already present, and we know for certain that this will be impacting the way we do things. But the thing is, if you remember in the middle, the Horizon 3 goes like to the top, and then also Horizon 2 goes possibly also down. So there's an intersection there between the Horizon 2 and the two other horizons, which might mean that the change that we currently feel in the Horizon 2 might simply join the decline of the Horizon 1 and then fade out in the future. But it can also, on the second intersection, possibly join the transformative movement of the Horizon 3. So this is something I think quite interesting. Marcus, you have a comment?
Well, rather a question, because I can imagine doing this with a group of more or less reflected youth workers, but I can imagine that if you do it with young people, especially young people with fewer opportunities, it can be quite challenging for them. So do you have any experience with that group and sort of breaking that down?
Yeah, well, so far we use it mostly with youth workers in terms of imagining the futures of youth work, and the workshop I've showed was basically part of that. Of course, you would need to adjust that, I would say radically, I would say but thinking of future and sensing maybe, which also goes a little bit beyond the current limitations, and maybe so allowing also to think beyond the current, I think could be beneficial exercise for those groups. It doesn't have to be conclusive in a scientific way, but I think the way of thinking of possible futures, and I think there are other tools in the toolbox, and probably the next one that Anita will present is a little bit maybe more accessible for younger generations. Carsten, one more question.
Short remark to this. I did it with students, and the question, I tried to focus the question of this long horizon on what would we like the future to be. And if you do this with young people, I think that should go anyway.
Beyond, yeah. Yeah, it could be easily combined, as thanks Carsten for this, with the tool that we presented in the first webinar, which is these types of future. That actually we have a variety of types. So we don't speak only in terms of horizons, but what types, like Carsten said, what's your preferred future, for example, would be one, what's a potential future would be second, but can also be maybe particularly for a horizon 2, what would be this upcoming future. So what's coming to us no matter what. And I think this, maybe you can easily combine these tools and create something good out of that. So thanks for good questions and participation here. And we go for a 4-minute stretching break and getting a little bit more water or coffee sip or tea or whatever you need. And at 11, we continue with the second tool. So get a glass of water, coffee, and come back at 11. 3.5 minutes. See you soon. Back.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I think we are slowly joining. For this second tool, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to jump right in as people slowly join. So the second tool of today, it's called Window to the Future. And as Darko was saying, it's a tool that you can use with different groups, namely with young people. It makes future thinking a little bit more accessible, a little bit more gradual, let's say, so people build the capacities, the competences they need in order to think about the future. So I would like to start with that and invite you to write on the chat your thoughts on this. What competences do we need to think about the future? What things do we need to be able to do, to process in our minds, with our bodies, I don't know, to be able to think about the future? I know many of us here are educators. Imagination. Yes, that's a central one for sure. And it's not a given. Not everyone can access their imagination, especially when it's about thinking about the real world. It's somehow hard to do that exercise. We shouldn't take that for granted. Taking different perspectives, being creative, empathy, super important, observation, flexibility, knowing the history, being able to spot patterns in the past and project that in the future when applied. That's very important. Communication skills, connections, all that. Yes, yes, yes. So we need to build these capacities in order to have good conversations about the future. And most importantly, to be able to cooperate and generate action towards creating a desirable future, right? So this game is a very simple activity that is designed to facilitate that. I'm going to go straight in. It's a game that comes on a little bag like this. Now I feel like I'm on these influencer shows, like this is the bag. And it has different decks. So these different colors of decks and one big yellow card that is bigger than the other ones. And then you need a dice for it. And normally you can use a big board or make a flip chart yourself. So to facilitate this learning to think about the futures, we create a metaphor. And the metaphor is looking out the window, because this is something everybody does. So the board generally has a window, or you can draw this on a flip chart, a window. And the metaphor is when you look out the window, you see some things that are close and you see them with more definition, with more details. And the things that are far, maybe you see more blurry. You don't really understand all the lines in the far away. And that's what happens when we think about the future as well, right? Horizon 1 is very close by. If we think further, 10, 20, 30, 50 years, it becomes very blurry. The uncertainty is very big. Also, why do we look out the window? Well, we know because we want to know the weather and we want to know how we prepare for that weather, right? We want to know if it's going to be sunny, if it looks like it might rain, and it's never really sure, but it kind of gives us some indications, and that's why we want to think about the future. So this is a bit the introduction you can give before starting the game. Then the game itself goes into several rounds, and you can decide how many rounds, and each round you can go further in the new horizons, so further in time, or you can go deeper into some futures. I'll explain. First round, generally we start thinking about the present. Then second round, maybe we think about, let's imagine the future in 3 years, 5 years. Then the second round, you can build that up to 15 years, and you can go on if that's useful for the work you're doing with your group. I would argue that working, for example, with a group, as I think Karsten was saying, with a group of students, maybe it's interesting to take them as far as when they are active in the field. Maybe with young people, it's interesting to think 10 or 15 years ahead. Thinking 50 years ahead might generate a conversation that it's too dystopic and filled with imagined worlds or science fiction kind of movies, might be not so useful. So you decide, according to your goal, how far you want to take your group thinking about the future. You can also decide not to go longer in that future, but going deeper. So for example, on the second round, you would think about the future in 3 years or 5 years. Third round, you take them to 10 years, and then you start changing that scenario into a more desirable scenario. And people start tweaking things in their imagination to make it more adjusted to what they want to be and not what they think it will be. And they start getting more agency about that imagination. Okay, this is very abstract. So I'll start explaining things very practically, and we try. Round 1, like I said, it's generally about the present. And the question I generally ask people, and now I invite you to write on the chat, is what signals do you see in the present that already indicate what's coming, right? What weather is coming? What signals? For example, kids are learning to code in kindergarten. That's something that is happening, and it kind of signals something, right? Write on the chat any signal that you think this is already happening, and it kind of shows the direction we're going. It doesn't have to be negative or positive. It doesn't matter. Anything that you think, digitalization, yes. And you can be specific if you want on like concrete situations, something you saw as well. AI, people treating AI as a friend, yes. Creating emotional bonds with AI. The geopolitical conflicts, very, very good. The mental health of youth, maybe having more challenges nowadays, dealing with algorithms and so forth. Lack of social interactions. Uncertainty about the future. The mental health of youth workers. Yes. People spend a lot of time in the digital world, all of us. Addiction. Very good. So in the first round, what we would do is to invite everyone in the group to write these things in a Post-it and add to that board, to that window, to a first layer of that window. And you can keep adding if you want. It's interesting for all of us to read, even as I speak. So then we could have a conversation about that. Okay, why are these signals? What does it mean to look at these? Are they all good? Are they bad? If the group builds a scenario that is kind of only pointing to negative things, maybe we can ask actively for more positive signals. Right, you can facilitate that conversation to balance it out. Then, once this is done, you move to the second round, and this you here are going to do in small groups. I'm going to explain it. So Sabrina is going to share the board that you're going to have access to. This is a digital board. It's not how the board looks in reality, but it's good enough. So this is the board in the middle. I've put it 1, 2, 3 steps on the bottom. These are the steps you need to follow in this round. And you will see the cards that you need to use, the green ones, the light blue, and the yellow there as well. I'll explain what are the steps you're going to be invited to do in your groups. You can do this in a group of 2 people or in a group of 5. It doesn't matter. Don't wait for more people to come in. Just start when you get to the group. First step, you look into the green cards. The green cards are area cards, and they help people, the learners at that moment, to focus in an area of society instead of just thinking of the future in general, because that might be too vague, too abstract, too hard. So you have, for example, areas like arts and culture, or education and learning, or security and safety, or society and demographics, or health and well-being, etc., etc. Each player should choose 1 card and take those 2 areas. You can do it even randomly, and write a prediction, something they think is going to happen, in a post-it in that area. So each participant would add 2 post-its if you have enough time for that. If not, choose just 1 of the areas. So you will have this board full with different post-its of how this group imagines a societal scenario in this case, I'm challenging you for 15 years, because you can do it and you are warmed up now thinking about the horizons. So everyone will add, and you can see now how to add a post-it. You click there, you choose the color of your post-it, and as soon as you do that, you should type immediately. Otherwise, if you start clicking, you might not be able to write your text. But if immediately when you put the post-it, you start typing, it should work. So that's the first thing. You have kind of 3 minutes to do this. It's not to think very much about it. It's just to put what comes up to your mind. The way you divide the areas between you doesn't matter, really. Just take any areas, agree who's taking what, and put it down. That's the first step. Once you do that, there's a very important thing here. Some young people might not know what to say about economy and employment, right? Or maybe some of us also might not know. So you have the light blue card, which is an Ask a Futurist card. And this is a deck of cards that has true predictions from real futurists in these areas. So these are possible things to actually happen that have been studied. So if someone doesn't know what to write, they can still participate just by looking here and copy pasting. In the real game, people can just take a card and put it instead of the post-it. Okay, so this is to make sure that everybody participates, even if they don't know, if they can't imagine anything, right? It's a matter of inclusion. So here you will have a link to that PDF, and you can also peek in, and there's going to be predictions for every area. So that's first 3 minutes. I know it's a lot, but it's basically simple. It's just making predictions in post-its there. Then you have 7 minutes to explain a little bit their post-it. So everybody takes, 30 seconds, a minute, just to explain what they meant, because maybe you wrote quickly and it's not very clear what you mean, just to explain so you can kind of understand the scenario that is built. If you have time, you can discuss it a little bit, what you built. And then on the third step, we're going to do something else, which is we're going to empathize. Somebody was talking about how important it is to develop empathy with future generations. We're going to empathize with the life of someone in this scenario we created together. So for that, we're going to use the yellow card. In the real game, you would throw a dice. Whatever number you get, you would, for 30 seconds, describe how that person would live in this scenario. You have to improvise it, so whatever comes out. Here, you don't have dice. I invite you to just start an alphabetical order, and somebody gives you a number. So, Darko would tell me, Anita, you're number 4. So you became an activist fighting for, so in this scenario, I became an active 15 years from now, fighting for, and I look at the scenario and I'll say, well, there's something here about unemployment. So I became an activist for employment for humans. That's my job now in youth work. And then I'll go to Domagoy and say, Domagoy, you're number 6. You are a youth worker in this scenario. Describe how your workday looks like. And then Domagoy would explain this, 30 seconds. And we would go around. You can give a second round if you have the time for it. So the idea here is to empathize. This is what we're going to play now. And afterwards, I can explain you what could be next steps. We don't have much time to do more here. The time we have, Sabrina, is 15, 20 minutes. How much do we have, actually?
Yeah, we can do 20 minutes.
Fantastic. That's great. So you have even a bit of a buffer time to have a bit more conversations. If you finished the process earlier, you can keep talking about it and how would you use it, whatever, with each other. You don't have to return here until we close the breakout rooms. Very important is now links, because there's a few links you need to use. And we've seen that when you go to your breakout rooms, you might not have access to these links. You should always look in the chat if they are there. I'm not sure if they will be there or not. But anyways, Sabrina is going to share now. So there's going to be, every group has a specific link. Otherwise, everybody would be using the same board and it would be messy because we are nearly 70 people here. So every breakout room has their own link of a board like you saw here. And you should make sure that you are using all the same board. And also, there's going to be the link to the PDF Ask a Futurist cards, these cards that I told you that already have predictions on them. This is a different link. It's just a PDF. It's also on the bottom here. So depending on the group you join, you should join one of these links. That's the board that you're going to use. Okay. Let's see if this works. If we see that you don't get the link once you go to the group, then we will pass by and drop the link for everyone. This list, we will copy paste this into your chat. Okay. Sabrina.
I think I can open the rooms and I hope you have all, no, you don't know. Yeah, I think you should see the things now, no? In your room. I hope so. Good. I open them. See which room you are and copy that link and open the future link, which you can already, future card link, which you can already do now. Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a nice conversation. I hope it was not too rushed, although it always is in these things. But at least we are aiming that you got a little bit of a flavor of how it works. I think some people are still coming back. I think we're not all yet here. So I'm just going to give a few more seconds before we start sharing. Okay, I think most of us are back. Sabrina, can you confirm?
Yes,
Yeah?
I can confirm.
Fantastic. Right. So you had a bit of a taste of what this activity allows you to do. And firstly, I would like to ask you to write on the chat, but if you have something short to say, you can also just raise your hand and I'll give the word to 2 or 3 people. Share something funny or positively surprising about the activity. What worked or what was funny in the activity or what was positive? You can either write, raise your hand, and share. Let's see what's coming up. Kids were designed to be loud. Okay. So there were some loud kids. I don't know if you refer to yourselves or to your kids. Both are very acceptable to be loud in this activity. That's fine. Anything else you would like to? Okay, it leads to maybe discussion on a topic that previously was not thought of. Reflection about the effects of AI in the future. Different views from Europe. Time was short. Yes, I know. Imagining the life of someone in the future makes it more real, right? It helps kind of us grasp better. It's not just, it's kind of rooting imagination into somebody's life. That could be us, or could be a family member, or could be a friend. Okay, personal connections were important. A nice discussion. Having the time to reflect pros and cons are a possible scenario. Yes, thank you, and keep those thoughts coming. It's interesting to read. So how would follow this? How would we follow this? So the idea is, yes, we create this round where people design a scenario. While designing a scenario, we are already working on something very basic skills. For example, understanding that society has different dimensions, different areas, and that different areas interact with each other, and that we can think on areas that we never really thought of. On the instructions book, you have also a description of what those areas are, because for some young people, it might be hard to understand the word governance or these kind of words. Even for adults, it can be hard. And also when you play in presence, you can add the card with your post-its next to it. So it's very clear which areas you're talking about, and it kind of gives a graphic illustration of what's going on, what the scenario we are building. We, of course, also invite people to draw if they don't want to write. They can draw something in the post-its instead of writing. Once we close this round, you have one of two choices. A next round with a longer time span. So if the first round was about 5 years, the second one could be about 15 years. Now you played with 15 years, we could go longer. Or option B is to go deeper and to say, okay, now all together, not individually, but let's discuss this scenario. And what would we tweak in this scenario to a more desirable future, one that we would like to live in? And let's not make it super unrealistic, like, we're going to inhabit the moon, or all the evil people will die, things that children or young people would say and adults would hope for. Let's keep it possible, but desirable, something we could aspire together for. And so people start reflecting again, but now together to all those post-its, and commenting on each other's post-its and saying, well, here, what I would like to see more, it would be this. What I would like to prefer here would be that. And we have a conversation about, is that possible? Is that desirable? And we start building that scenario together. And again, we couldn't go to the round of the 3 steps and throw the dice and now imagine what it is to live in that scenario. So again, to ground that imagined, that vision, that group vision into real life stories. After that, we can have, for example, a conversation of, okay, what actions should we take now to create that future? What could we do now to foster that, to nudge in our little corner what is possible for us to do, if that is your goal, or you can leave it there. So it depends where you want to move the activity for. One interesting step that I advise links back to what you were saying in the beginning of those competences that we need to work on to be able to think about the future. So this activity is really designed for people to value those competences and to learn. So it's an activity to build capacity. And so we have the deck of the dark blue cards that are badge cards. Here I go again with my Instagram experience or lack of it. And we start taking all these cards, these badges, and the team distributes them to the people who have shown these competences here. And I have, for example, the critical thinker. So the group decides who in the group was the critical thinker, the one kind of making a lot of good questions, or who was an evidence master, somebody who was saying like, no, but this is happening, the facts, la, 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 la. Or who was a smile sparkler, so somebody who was kind of making a few jokes and kept the conversation light and interesting. So the group itself offers to each other, making sure that everybody gets at least a card, these badges. So we are valuing our capacity to dialogue about the future. So this is a bit about the game itself. One question I would have for you is, does it look like it's a doable activity with young people, or even with adults, I would add, but does it look like a doable activity? Again, reply with an emoji, reply with a chat, raise your hand, whatever you want. Can be creative. Yes, we can share the link now here to where you have all the game, the cards, everything is print and play. There's even a tutorial, a video tutorial explaining how to play and how to facilitate. And the instructions book has a bit more details on how to facilitate. Here, of course, we were just really, it's just a teaser on the activity itself. And generally, the Academy has some printed versions that can be sent by post if you request. Sonia, can you confirm this or say like, no, Anita, don't say that because we don't have them.
No, can be confirmed. We're just reprinting it. So yes, we'll get new sets and can send.
Which is great. Thank you so much for making this resource available. Do you have one question? I think I have like a minute, but do you have a question or something you didn't understood or something that would help you implement the game, or a comment? We have time for at least one, I would say. Okay, it seems not. Well, this is it for the game itself. The idea is really that we make it easier for youth workers and for the people in your community. So we really invite you also to help others facilitate this in order that we capacitate ourselves, youth workers, educators, to actually support young people in thinking about the future and making sense of this overwhelm and uncertainty and confusion that is kind of mainstream thing that you wrote when you said, what is the word that comes to mind when thinking about the future? So how can we make that easier, dealing with that? I have here two questions. Are we planning to translate it? And to explain how to run the game or facilitate it. So to run the game and the facilitation steps are all in the instructions. I cannot go through it now step by step, but it's quite simple. And it also has debriefing questions, so you can reflect afterwards. Everything is in the instructions, and that is also on the link that Sonia just posted. Plans to translate it, Sonia.
We are not translating the game at the European level. That's for sure. But our partners are invited. So there are 14 national agencies that are partners in this project. And they are, of course, invited to translate it. And there are also maybe, according to interest, others who might want to translate it. I don't think it's a huge effort to do that, actually, because there's not so much text. And I think the game lends itself to being translated. What we can do, and we have done that actually, for instance, with Slovakia. I thought, I'm not sure if
Yes, hi, yeah, we have translated
you're
it
here,
to
Yoda, exactly.
Slovakia.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I don't know, maybe you can explain how it worked for you, because you're translating it into Slovakian, right, at the moment, or you've done it.
Yeah, it's translated, and actually the cards printed version will arrive tomorrow to our office, so we are very looking forward to that. But it wasn't, I mean, that hard, but sometimes when you have only just certain like words, like 2 or 3 words, it's kind of harder to translate, so it would convey the same message, but at the same time it would kind of be natural in your language. So it was a challenge in some points, but I mean the instructions were very easy to translate. So I think it's very well put together game, and I'm looking forward to using it with our youth and youth workers. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, so great. I mean, that's really great to see. And I think we're doing it also, for example, in the Slovenian National Agency at the moment. But so maybe just having said this, it's we have the materials in the office. I mean, so in case somebody would like to translate it for a particular context, or maybe also to have it printed, themselves, then also potentially in an adapted version and so on. We can make all the basic materials, the formats for the cards and so on available. Yeah, I'm happy about any translation that comes up. So I think this is all I can say about the translation. So if you are intending to do anything like this, or if you have questions related to that, you can just write to me, and we will take it further with my colleagues in the office.
Voila, that's it from my side as well about this tool, and I'll pass the floor to Darko.
Yes, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure. I know it was short time to experience these two tools in a real time, but it's called tasting and testing. So we hope you had a little bit of the smell and a little bit of the taste of how these tools can actually work in your reality. Maybe a couple of closing comments from my side. We've started this webinar when we ask you how you feel about future, and uncertainty in this group was probably the key word, the dominant feeling about how certain you about the future that is coming in, and maybe it requires a lot of self-empathy and empathy for others to sense, okay, how do we move forward? In that sense, actually, maybe a couple of reminders about why the toolbox and what exactly the toolbox of 6 tools is about. So it's not about prediction of the future. So it's not a fortune-telling exercise. It's about guidance and framework to open thinking and widen horizons. Exactly what we try to do in this webinar, to widen the horizons about multiple possibilities, multiple ways of looking at the future, how to embrace uncertainties differently. We know the context matters. I think we also spoke about different target groups, but it's also about geographical context, economical, and all sorts of other contexts which are there. Especially when you speak about innovation, we know what is innovative in one context is not innovative anymore in another. Maybe what's future there, it's already present here, and so on. So taking into account your context and adjust the tools to your reality is essential. And of course, it requires a process that is not just a quick one-off reflection moment, but requires a little bit of holding space for these discussions to happen. So coming back to that, we would say it's not about prediction, but it's good to be at least vaguely right than exactly wrong. So it's not about predicting exactly the future, but it's building our capacity to sense how things might possibly unfold, evolve in different ways, and building these competencies that Anita was mentioning before. So some people would say, yeah, it's not about predictions, it's actually about better decisions. So what better decisions we make about future, which gives us more sense of safety and more sense of being in control, at least in a shorter term. So sensing what's coming, sensing the future, but actually making better decisions in the present would be probably best advice and recipe that we can give you about working with future. And last bit, the intention of the toolbox was really to make this shift from being more reactive and being more reflective, so feeling more in a kind of receiving or even in a victim position towards some changes that are ahead of us, but kind of more taking ownership and sense of agency. That's exactly what we will do in the last webinar, and to also move from more individually thinking to more kind of collective sensing. You may also use these tools to generate stories, different narratives about future, and they're all suitable for these kind of activities. And ultimately, we believe it really builds a future literacy of youth workers or young people that you work with. So we wish you luck. All the 6 tools are there. The next webinar will be on the 12th of February, and it will deal exactly with this sense of how do we feel about dealing with future and how to move through changes. So it will be a lot about change and how do we personally deal with change, and also how our organizations and groups can move through change. So this will be on 12th of February. But before we close, we will ask you for a short Mentimeter evaluation, which will take literally 2 minutes, and Sabrina will share a link in the chat. So 2 minutes, and then I'll let Sonia close the webinar.
I'm just going to also share quickly the QR code here, and then we see you joining, and you can, on your own pace, go through. As Darko said, it's only 2 minutes. So there's a few questions you can see now, which gives us a bit of feedback, what to take into account also for the next webinar. So just for those who have not yet found the link, it's in the chat, or you can also use your phone, put in menti.com and then the code, which you can see here and also in the chat. Yeah, or you use the QR code, which I just have here on this first slide. Very important for us to get this feedback, so thanks already in advance. I just checked, we have already 2/3 of you, more or less. So thanks a lot for everyone who finished. But you also, we are happy if you can just continue finishing. And I think Sonia would like to close our session here, our webinar.
Yes, I will do so. So yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for coming. Just as a few last remarks. Exactly, Domagoj already posted the link to the call for the third webinar in the chat. It's been posted today. So if you enjoyed this webinar, feel free. We're looking forward to seeing you at the next one, which is coming up on the 12th of February. And the focus that time will be dealing with change. About this webinar, about every webinar, actually, we will provide a recording afterwards, but not immediately. It will take a bit of time to prepare it. And you will also find already out now an article about the first webinar. So in case you did not manage to attend that one, but you would like to get a glimpse of what was happening, what we discussed, feel free to read it. You find it on the website, also of the Academy, on the homepage. Another question that is coming up usually after these webinars is, will there be a youth pass? Yes, there will be a youth pass if you would like it, but we will prepare them after the third webinar. And at that time, we will invite you to let us know if you would like to receive one, and then we will prepare it for you. Exactly. And then maybe a last information. I don't know if you've seen it, but we will be organizing the next big residential academy event from the 5th to the 8th of May in Slovenia. It's the fourth event now of a series of events that we've had in the past years, which will bring together probably something between 150 and 200 participants from the community of youth work, practice, different kinds of stakeholders, youth workers, but also others. And the call is open at the moment. So if you're interested, check it out. Also on the website, you can still apply until the 2nd of February. I think this is it from my side. And if you would like to receive the game, of course, once more, please contact me and we will take care of it. We will not send a huge amount of sets to people. You will be able to receive 3, 4, 5 sets, something like this. If you need a bigger amount, we would invite you to get the materials and either just download them from the website and use them like this, or to have them printed properly at your own for your own needs. And of course, you're warmly invited to check the Futures Toolbox. You have the link also again in the chat to find out more about all the other tools, and possibly also to check out a bit the research still, which is a basis for the tools. Thank you very much. This is it for today. I wish you all the best, and I'm looking forward maybe to seeing you again on the 12th of February for the third and last webinar of this series. Have a good day. Thank you.